Alright, let's talk Venom. Alright, so I went to go see Venom last night, and I'm going to lead in with saying I am very glad I turned my brain off for this movie, because if I knew absolutely nothing about this character, I would have found this movie incredibly enjoyable. Much in the way of, like, finding the 90s superhero movies where, like, Hollywood didn't exactly know what to do with a superhero movie back in the 90s, with the exception of maybe, like, I don't know, Blade. Blade is kind of the only one that kind of comes to mind where it's like, hey, that was pretty damn good. This very much feels like a 90s superhero movie where they weren't entirely sure what they were trying to do. But when you compare it to, like, box office blockbusters like Wonder Woman or just about anything in the Marvel Cinematic Universe right now, it really, really falls short. Now, I think the cast did great with what they were given. Tom Hardy has proven time and time again that he's a phenomenal actor, and he's always been a touch quirky on his own. So the humor kind of worked in his favor a little bit, because Venom's humor has always been a little quirky and off-kiltered a little bit. So that definitely worked in his favor. In case you haven't noticed, I'm going over what I liked before I start talking about what I didn't like. The interaction between Venom and Eddie Brock was pretty good. Like, that wound up being the most enjoyable thing about the film. Venom itself looked exactly how he should look, you know, minus the whole logo thing. Like, I'm still a little butthurt about that, I won't lie. The fact that he doesn't have the spider, but this has no ties to Spider-Man whatsoever, so I'll let that go. I feel like everybody played their part relatively well, and that's kind of the only thing I liked about the movie. So the shit I didn't like, which was just about everything else. I talked with a couple of my friends about this, and I made the comment going in that I probably know too much to completely enjoy this movie, because the comic book guy in me is always going to sit there and go, that's not right. That's not how it goes. That's not how that works. That's not how that character is supposed to be. And as much as you try to not do it, sometimes I just can't help myself, and I'll just nitpick the shit out of it until it's just like there's nothing left. I did it with both of my, like, all-time favorite superheroes. I did it to Spawn. I most definitely did it to Green Lantern. With Green Lantern, I basically showed no mercy, and with Venom, I kind of found myself doing the exact same thing. As a comic book guy, I could very plainly see what storylines they were kind of pulling from. This part is going to have a little bit of spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie, definitely turn it off now. But here we go. You've had your warning. So, at the beginning of the film, he's sitting there talking to his girlfriend, and she talks about how, well, you got ran out of New York and you lost your job at the Daily Globe. And I'm like, okay, that's from his origin story, because that's referencing the story that he published that wound up being a farce because he was trying to out somebody as a crime boss, and then Spider-Man actually apprehended the real crime boss, and everybody thought Eddie Brock was a sham, and he lost his job, and he blamed Spider-Man for all of it, and he wound up becoming Venom not long after that. But they bring that up, and Eddie is just, like, very immediate to just, like, dismiss it. He's like, nah, let's not talk about that, let's not talk about that. The setting of the movie itself is in San Francisco, and that kind of lays credence to the Lethal Protector storyline, where he just kind of went, fuck Spider-Man, I'm just gonna go off on my own and do my own damn thing, and he wound up in San Francisco, eventually coming back to New York when Maximum Carnage happened. And then you have the whole Life Foundation situation, which very much pulled from separation anxiety. It also pulled a little bit from the Lethal Protector storyline as well, where the Life Foundation forcefully removed Venom's offspring out of him, and that's where we got people like Scream and Riot and Malice and Lasher and all that type of stuff. I think for the most part that's their names. I don't remember completely. I'd have to go back and read the storyline again. But we are dealing with a Venom that has no ties to Spider-Man at all in any shape or form. And ultimately, this is what hurts the movie the most. It is the fact that you are making an origin without the origin. And that is just, like, most people would just look at that and just go, huh? That doesn't make sense. And I feel like that really hindered the character progression. Another thing that really started to cheese me off is how they were talking about, they kept calling them symbiotes. Or symbiotes. I've always hated symbiotes. I have always... Symbiotes. They are known as symbiotes. They kept treating them like parasites. And I felt like this was very conflictive throughout the progression of the movie, because you're calling them symbiotes and they're bonding to hosts, but the hosts have to be compatible or else the symbiote will kill them. And that's not a symbiote, that's a parasite. And that conflicts with things, because when Eddie and Venom are joined and they have full symbiosis, like the movie wants to make a big deal out of, it's like, oh my god, look guys, look, he's achieved full symbiosis, and we just all kind of sit there and go, yeah, that's what they're supposed to do. But there are several times where, like, Eddie calls Venom a parasite, and Venom gets very, very angry about this. Like, you called me a what? Apologize right now. And it's hard for me to take that joke when that's exactly how you wrote the symbiotes. Like, there were several times in the movie, well, no, okay, not several times, but there was one very clear-cut time in the movie where, like, Eddie goes to a doctor and the doctor's like, holy shit, all this shit's happening to you. And he's having an internal argument with Venom going, you're causing this, you're killing me. And Venom's going, no, don't listen to him, I can fix it, and all this different type of shit. And it's like, okay, you wrote the symbiotes as a parasite. I mean, if that's the route you want to go, then fine, call it a parasite, not a symbiote. Because you're not writing the symbiote as how it's supposed to be. And that also segues into my next thing of him being called Venom in the first place. In the books, and granted, yes, I understand they're trying to move away from Spider-Man and everything, but Eddie starts referring to themselves as Venom because he wants to be poison to Spider-Man. He wants to ruin everything Spider-Man is. And in this movie, Venom just kind of straight up goes, oh, I'm called Venom. And that's it. That's all we hear about it. And there's nothing else brought up. And I guess you gotta fit the name in there somewhere. But it was just kind of like, again, the comic book guy going, that's not how that goes. And then, another thing was, like, Venom basically telling Eddie, it's like, I'm in control, Eddie. You are just along for the ride. Do what I say, and you just might live through this whole situation. And I kind of sit there, again, and just go, that's not how this goes either. And while the symbiote can take full control, like, we had actually saw that a couple times. If you ever read any of the books, when Spider-Man first got the costume, he was always finding himself to be just exhausted and tired no matter how much he slept. And that's because the suit was coming on to him while he was sleeping and patrolling through the city and being Spider-Man, all while Peter was still asleep and he had no memory of it. So the symbiote can take control, but the symbiote needs Eddie just as much as Eddie needs Venom. And them just saying like, oh, I can do whatever I want because I have you and I can control your entire body. That's not how the symbiotes work. That's really not how they work. And that just really started to get under my skin after a while, almost like this itch on my back. Sorry about that. I also feel like this movie really suffered from misleading advertising as well. Like the big tagline on the posters and the previews and all that type of stuff was like, the world has enough heroes. And this movie was supposed to be a very hard R at one point, and they cut about 40 to 50 minutes out of it to make it PG-13, even though you still see it, like 3 or 4 times you see Venom bite somebody's head off and eat people, which again is still something that kind of gets under my skin a little bit, because it's like, Eddie Brock didn't eat people. I mean, like, there may be like a couple factoids in the Lethal Protector storyline that I don't remember, but I really don't recall Eddie Brock ever eating anyone. That's some shit that Venom started doing when Mac Gargan, aka the Scorpion, became Venom's host. That's something that happened around that time, not when Eddie was Venom. But for a movie trying to act like an anti-hero, they just throw Venom in the hero role, like, immediately. Again, with spoilers, so I do apologize here. Like, Venom at one point is just like, and it's almost like snap decision. He has to go fight another symbiote, and he doesn't think he can win, but screw it, I'm gonna stay on Earth. I like it here, and on my planet, I'm kind of a loser, like you are, Eddie, and together I think we can really do some good and protect this place. And it's like, okay, suddenly you want to throw on the cape and everything, and I'm gonna go save the day type of deal, and it didn't make sense to me. It didn't flow well. Venom has always been a character, he will seek out those that harm others, but as far as like saving the world, that is not something he generally cared about. At least not when Eddie Brock was Venom. But I don't know, this movie was just all over the place, and I wish I had somebody to bounce off of with this, but just overall, it felt like a train wreck of a movie. The 90s superhero trope was alive and well of this. There were some parts that were incredibly funny. Dialogue between Venom and Eddie were really good. I don't know if this was a thing in the comic books, but they seem to be really adamant about making Venom's food of choice Ore-Ida tater tots, which I thought that was like, okay, that's cute enough to be funny, because you see him just tear into a frozen bag of tater tots with reckless abandon, not even try and cook them, and then like later on in the film when Eddie and Venom are talking to each other, it's like, so what do we want for dinner? And Venom is just immediately piping up, tater tots, I want tater tots and chocolate, and it's like, oh, okay, alright, that's fine. And then of course you had a post-credit stinger scene that showed very clearly the direction they want to go with this. I don't know if I should mention this to you guys or not, but you know what, fuck it, I've already put a spoiler thing up, so screw it. I'm gonna talk about it. So, post-credit scene, there's a prisoner at San Quentin Prison that specifically requests Eddie Brock interview him, and you come in and you find out that it's Cletus Cassidy, and he's being portrayed by Woody Harrelson, which I thought, Woody Harrelson as Cletus Cassidy, I think is phenomenal. And I am a little biased on that. I have always loved Woody Harrelson. I think he's a great actor. He's got some of the best range in the business. He can play virtually any role. I really think he can. And he just had that sound and look of like the foppish, dapper gentleman. And not just gentleman, but southern gentleman. Really had that southern drawl to him type of deal. You know what I'm saying? But when you looked in his eyes, you clearly saw that, like, hey, he's got some screws loose. And he pretty much, he laid it on thick, and it said exactly what, the moment we saw it, we knew what was coming. That, like, when I get out of here, and I will rain carnage upon everybody. And I'm just like, we got our sequel, folks. Overall, if you take Venom at face value, I think you'll thoroughly enjoy the movie. There were definitely some parts about the movie that I enjoyed, but I really feel like I should stick with my previous statement of I know too much to fully enjoy this film. The Venom movie could have been done so much better. Even in the situation of just like the main character having a voice in his head that he can communicate with and everything, and I've seen that done better, and I've seen it done better very, very recently. There's a movie called Upgrade, where this dude gets a computer chip implanted in his spine in order to walk again, and it winds up that the computer chip has a sentient AI, and you get the interaction between those two, which is an absolutely awesome movie, a very dark movie. And it takes a turn at the end that I didn't really expect, so I would say if you're a big Venom fan, like, you owe it to yourself to at least go see Venom at least once, but take it at face value, because if you did what I did, you're just going to walk out of the movie disappointed. But if you want something that Venom very much tries to do, but you want it in a much better performance, go download Upgrade, or go to iTunes and buy Upgrade, or rent Upgrade, because they're two very similar films, and I really feel like Upgrade just did it better. But that's pretty much all I got to say on it. Is just take it with a grain of salt. If you're a true Venom fan, don't expect much. But thank you very much for watching. I appreciate the support. If you like what I just produced for you, I'm not saying you gotta agree with me, but if you were at least entertained, I'm definitely thankful for that you'll share a little bit of your day with me. Hit that subscribe button, leave a thumbs up on the video. Let me know what you thought about the movie down in the comments section. I don't read the comments section very often, but I'll read the comments section for this one. But yeah, see you on the next movie review or the next video, whichever one I do next, and I'll catch you guys later.